Howdy, everybody. How you doing? Hello, hello, hello. I'm not alone. We got Doug. How you doing, Doug? What's going on, my friend?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Slept like 15 hours last night after the deadline, so a little refreshed. Kind of sad that it's over, but glad the Dodgers made some pickups. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're telling me about the rest, right? I did basically a 9-hour stream yesterday. I got done, and I actually felt okay. About 30 minutes after, I was like, I'm not bad right now. And then I had something to eat, and then I crashed. It was just, my goodness, what a day! What
Nine
a
hours
day
is crazy. I
it
did
was.
like 2.5, 3 hours, and a couple of shoeies in there, and after that, I was like just kind of gassed, man. But nine
Yeah.
hours is impressive. You rock it the whole freaking day, man.
Yeah, I
Congrats to
mean, Jim
you.
was going for a while too. We were just holding it down out there. I know Draftnik Mark was out there doing stuff. It was a busy
Yeah, but he
day.
went for like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, I know. I know.
If he did the marathon stream, I can't imagine the number he would pull at the end of the day. But yeah,
Yeah.
Robbie, I think you went for an hour. You
Eight
went
and a,
maybe
I
an
think it was
hour and a
eight,
half longer
eight
than
and a
me.
half.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
It
That's
was
crazy.
it was a
I
long day,
applaud
but
you. I applaud you for starting at 10 a.m. That is a long day.
I don't know. I guess it felt right. I was like, all right, 8-hour shift. Here we go.
Yep.
But it was an eventful day, and everyone that's here in the chat that was with us yesterday, thank you for joining us yesterday. We got a bunch of new subscribers. I know Jim did as well.
Mhm.
Doug, I'm sure you got a lot of traffic over on
Mhm.
your channel over there. But let's kind of, we're going to be talking winners and losers tonight. We're going to kind of keep this pretty easy for tonight. Nothing crazy. We just had a long day yesterday. So, Doug, let's dive in, man.
Let's get crazy.
Let's dive in. The Dodgers, right? They had a pretty eventful deadline overall. Getting Jack Flaherty, Michael Kopech, Tommy Edman, big 3-team trade there. I loved everything the Dodgers did personally. What were your thoughts overall?
Yeah, I think based on some of the deadlines we've seen the last couple of years with Andrew Friedman after the expanded postseason, they haven't made those big impact trades, moves on the margins, kind of moves that definitely raise your floor. But I think this is the one where you went out there and you got the best starting pitcher, arguably, that was traded at the deadline. So it really came down to the buzzer. A lot of Dodgers fans were freaking out. You were hoping for Crochet. I think this whole time, I think all of us probably knew that Scooble, that was a pie in the sky, and that was never a realistic option. But when you heard Flaherty to the Dodgers, you really felt a lot better about your chances to win the World Series because, look, I totally get it. I totally get fans out there saying, oh, the Dodgers, they're the rich kids of baseball. They're the spoiled little rich kids. They got Ohtani and Teoscar and all these big offseason pickups, and they want more at the deadline. That's true, but it's also true that there's just so many questions with this Dodgers starting rotation. Even Tyler Glass now, his ERA has gone up every month. He's just blown past his ERA, his innings limit, and his game started in his career high. So Yamamoto, no guarantees that he's coming back. He's just started a throwing program 2 weeks ago. Clayton Kershaw is getting roughed up tonight in San Diego. Gavin Stone has hit a little bit of a rookie wall. Bobby Miller hasn't really put it together in his second season. A little bit of a sophomore slump with Bobby Miller. Walker Buehler hasn't looked like the guy we saw before the injury. So tons and tons of questions, and hopefully Jack Flaherty can be that guy you can trust in Game 2 or Game 3 of a postseason series, and he certainly has really pitched like an ace this season.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much just nailed all of it. That's why you're the expert of the Dodgers, my friend. And, Jim, as you kind of process everything throughout the day, what do you think of the Dodgers moves? What would you say your final grade for the Dodgers would be?
Well, Doug, I don't know about you, but I felt like if the Flaherty trade didn't happen, that we were probably looking at a loss for the deadline all in general, because all the moves they made added depth, slightly raised the floor a little bit, but I expect the Dodgers to raise the ceiling. And we had heard that they were in on Randy Arozarena, and Seattle swooped in with a package that I felt like the Dodgers could have matched at the very least. So until that Jack Flaherty trade, I was looking like this is not the Dodgers trade deadline that I expected. And you tell me, if they don't acquire Jack Flaherty, if it's everything they wound up doing, Rosario, the trade for Kopech and Edman, if that's it, would you have given the Dodgers a win or a passing grade for this deadline just with all of those depth moves, or did they need to make that splash?
Yeah, I think the splash definitely took them over the top. I still have a problem giving them an A even with the Jack Flaherty trade, just because you mentioned Randy Arozarena. I do think there's a world where you could have added Randy Arozarena and Jack Flaherty, but I still think you could make a strong case that it was a B+ or an A-, depending on the upside play of Michael Kopech. And last 4 appearances, it looks like he's figured things out, made some adjustments with the cutter. He's always had the velo. Can the Dodgers find a way to improve his command? And if he plays and that plays for the Dodgers, then I think that could change the overall grade. But yeah, you're absolutely correct that the fact that you didn't get a big-time impact bat. I mean, you were looking at possibly a Luis Robert Jr. He was the tier A kind of bat that they were rumored to be linked to. You didn't get that. Then you didn't get a Randy Arozarena, but you did get a Tommy Edman who really fills out the defensive questions that they have. Because the truth of the matter is, Andy Pages, he's been a below-average center fielder for the Dodgers since the beginning of May. James Outman, he hasn't proven to be able to hit big league pitching. Jason Hayward's not going to be that guy. Mookie Betts is not going to be that guy in center field. They don't want to put him out in center when he already moved to second because he didn't want to play right. So that doesn't seem like that's a possibility. So with Tommy Edman, you get a above-average defender at multiple positions where they have tons of questions. I mean, Tommy Edman, I think, will really start at center field. That'll probably be the first place he'll get some run, but we'll see what happens at shortstop. Everything that I've heard is that Mookie is going to go back to short when he comes back because of the way that Gavin Lux has really picked things up offensively. You really can't move him anywhere. He has to stay at second, but also third base too. I mean, Tommy Edman can play third base as well. So I like that move. He's got another year of team control. He's a local kid, happy to be a Dodger. He's an average bat, so nothing's going to blow your mind. Rosario's pretty interesting to me because, by the way, I'm going to make a prediction here. Next trade deadline, Ahmed Rosario is going to trade to the Dodgers. Wherever team he's on, he will be traded to the Dodgers. But we love the way he's hit against lefties. He's been above average against righties as well. You can platoon him with Gavin Lux there at left. So really kind of the buzzword in Dodgerland is optionality, and you definitely have that with the players they brought in. But I 100% absolutely agree with you that you don't make the splash at the buzzer for Jack Flaherty, then you're really questioning just how all in were the Dodgers and Andrew Friedman with this 2024 team. Because Flaherty, he's pitched like an ace this season. Is he a true number one for his career? Really hasn't been that since 2019. But still, when you look at what was available, the fact that they got the very best pitcher that ultimately was traded, you have to see them as big winners at the deadline.
I got to say this about the Flaherty trade and how I think that went down. The relief pitching market, we saw what the top names went for. And we know everything we were hearing from Heyman and from Nightingale and all of the insiders, they were reporting that the market for starting pitching and the top tier of the relief pitching was inflated and very high. They were asking for the moon. The Nats didn't even trade Kyle Finnegan. So you were looking for a lot. I give Andrew Friedman a lot of credit here because I feel like they were probably having a staring match with the Tigers and just were waiting to see who would blink first, because that Yusei Kikuchi deal the night before totally screwed up the market for rental starting pitching. And in the end, the Dodgers get Jack Flaherty for what you could argue is a better deal than what the Astros and the Dodgers, or the Astros and the Blue Jays trade went down for. So you got the better pitcher and you gave up less than what Houston gave up. So in the end, good job by Andrew Friedman. I have a feeling they were having a staring contest all day long, and the Tigers blinked first, which they had to. Couldn't hold on to Andrew Friedman.
And I think you got to give the Dodgers credit, too, when you consider the fact that they were still in talks with the White Sox with Garrett Crochet up until the very end. But that's a complicated move. Anything where you can have an extension involved, and when you look at his innings limit, could you really count on him in October? I think Flaherty was the safer move, and the fact you pivot right to that, and then as you mentioned, what the Astros gave up, 3 top 19 prospects for them to get a Yusei Kikuchi, who really has high upside for sure. I mean, if you look at his stuff, I think Flaherty, we look at the way he's performed this year, every metric you want to look at, he's performed at a top 5 level. And I think, too, the most important thing is the length. I mean, he's averaging 5.93 innings per start. In his 18 starts, 12 of them, he's gone at least 6 innings. This is a Dodgers team that's averaging less than 5 innings per start since the beginning of June. So, yeah, you want the upside. You want to be able to give a guy the ball in game 1 or game 2 of the postseason, but still, you need a guy that can really just get you solid quality starts right now. Because, hey, the Padres, they're up on the Dodgers right now, and they're chasing them in the division. This could be a tight race down the stretch, and Flaherty certainly helps them really put him in a good spot to win the West.
Yeah, and about Flaherty, I want to ask with him. I mean, yeah, he's having a great year, best season of his career since 2019. Now, leading up to that, I had I'd say a little birdie telling me that there was some smoke with the Dodgers and Jack Flaherty. I didn't want to put anything out there because that's not my place. But he had told me the Yankees had backed out because of some possible medicals, some scares on the medicals. I don't know if you've heard anything at all in Dodger land when it comes to any of those medicals. It's obviously seems like they were fine with it. Any thoughts or anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, he said before the game today that he feels fine. He's essentially asymptomatic for Andy's back issues. And look, I mean, that's the most Dodgers thing ever, right? If he were to be traded here and suffer some type of injury. I mean, you look back in 2021, you traded for Max Scherzer. He was absolutely dominant down the stretch. He was the biggest reason why they almost caught the Giants in that division. They won 106 games. The Giants won 107. And if he didn't have the dead arm in the postseason, I feel really good about the Dodgers' chances to at the very least force a Game 7 against the Braves in that NLCS, and anything can happen in a Game 7. But yeah, absolutely, it's a concern. Having said that, I mean, it's a rental too. I mean, this is a guy who's going to give you 8 to 10 starts, and hopefully, for his sake, he can put together a great 8 to 10 starts and impress in the postseason, set himself up for a really nice payday in the offseason. When last year we were thinking, okay, is Jack Flaherty done? Is Jack Flaherty number 4 or 5 pitcher? Then all of a sudden, he's a guy who could be the Dodgers Game 2 starter. So, I mean, a lot has improved for him. I think for me, listening to Jack Flaherty before the game today, he talked about just changing his body in the offseason as far as just the alignments towards the plate and how it puts him in a better position to improve his command. And that really has stood out. I mean, you look at his strikeout to walk ratio, it's the second best in Major League Baseball. I mean, a 32% strikeout rate. I mean, a pretty minuscule walk rate. So as long as he continues to build on that, I think he can really help this team. Now, the reason why I was all in on Crochet, though, having said all that, and I think I'm one of the few Dodgers fans to kind of still feel like, man, could they have got Crochet? Like, what would have taken to get Crochet? Like, was it the prospects? Was it the extension? I want to get to the bottom of that because we know that dominance plays up in the postseason. Can Flaherty have that dominance in the postseason, or is he just going to be someone who gives you solid starts and then you have to kind of count on the bullpen and this offense to score a ton of runs? So we'll see how it plays out, but still, you made a move you had to make.
Yeah, I agree. And I just want to touch on one more thing there. You talked about Tommy Edman. Honestly, I think that's one of the most underrated moves of this entire deadline. I really love that, especially with all the injuries they've had with Mookie, with Muncy. Obviously they also got Rosario there. I thought that was a pretty solid pickup to bring him back. But I love the Edman move. He was a 5-win player, 5 Fangraph wins above replacement a couple of years ago. Numbers went down a little bit, but he's one of those guys that's a glue kind of a guy. And if he's healthy, I think that's going to be a big pickup for the Dodgers. Overall, like, where do you place that among all of the Dodgers moves?
I would place it pretty much. It depends on how Kopech fares because his team really needs bullpen help, but definitely right in line with Michael Kopech. Absolutely. And I'm very excited to see what he can do in Dodger Blue because you need guys like that. You need those glue guys that can play multiple positions. I mean, you could see a game in October where Shohei gets a big bomb, Mookie gets a big hit, but then Tommy Edman finds a way to get a clutch base hit to really flip a game. So, yeah, I think what this team has lacked last couple of seasons is a quality bench. I mean, I've seen better benches at Elysian Park near Dodger Stadium, and to have someone like a Tommy Edman that can raise the floor with their bench and play multiple positions at an above-average level, that's going to really help this team. I don't know if you guys remember Game 1 of the NLDS where Kirsch got rocked and he goes just a third of an inning, gives up 6 runs. There was a play there where a ball goes right off the heel of James Outman, and James Outman was really nice defensively. He's an above-average defender, but we know the postseason is a different story. So I truly believe in having quality veteran defenders, and it doesn't get a lot of publicity. People don't talk about it as much, but it really goes a long way to just kind of furthering the quality of this Dodgers team. So I appreciated the move. I think that Edman, too, on another year of team control, too, it really helps his team because Chris Taylor, Kike Hernandez, I mean, they're the versatile players that really they want to play that role, but the problem is they're not average bats. So the question is, how quickly can Tommy Edman step right in and find his swing with just a couple of months left before the postseason?
Yeah, I agree. Well, Kike, I mean, of course, he hit his first home run against my Red Sox not too long ago.
I know, right?
He hits the Red Sox well. But I'll ask one more question here. When it came to when all the dust settled, was there one, besides Garrett Crochet, was there one move where you were like, man, I really wanted that. I feel like we really needed that to put us over the edge. Was there one move like that for you that you kind of maybe, kept you up a little bit last night?
I have to say, I mean, just being a Dodgers fan right now, as far as answering this question, Randy Arozarena would have been absolutely electric for this organization. I mean, it just goes beyond what he could do at the plate. We know since the beginning of June, he's been one of the best 30 bats in baseball. Not a great defender, but considering the Edman trade, if you had Edman in center and Teo and Arozarena as your corners, I mean, that is the kind of stuff that I think plays up in the postseason. And the Mariners gave up their 12 and their 22, I believe, for that trade. The Dodgers could have found a way to get it done, but still, I think they have a plan, and they're feeling very confident about Max Muncy coming back and Mookie's coming back. And you kind of forget that because they've kind of been out for such a long time, it feels like now. But, yeah, I think the Luis Robert Jr. really just kind of solidifying center field was kind of a big thing for me, just because not a lot of guys that are on the market in the offseason that really make a lot of sense for the Dodgers. And I think Luis Robert Jr., if you would have been able to pull that off, I mean, I would have loved to see how he performs in a different organization, a change of scenery guy. We know the potential he has. He has perennial all-star. Really, he has MVP level upside. So that really was the move that I was kind of hoping for is, Luis Robert Jr., he's the move you make for this year and the next 3, and then pitching you address for the rentals. So I still feel good about what they did all in all. But, yeah, just another bat that you think's going to have a big impact in the postseason would have definitely pushed this one over the top for me.
Yeah. Jim, any last thoughts, any last questions for Doug before he gets out of here?
No, I think that we kind of nailed it there. I mean, the Randy Arozarena thing felt like the missed opportunity. Yeah. Good news is you can try to go trade for Luis Robert this offseason. Randy Arozarena, that ship has sailed. But Luis Robert, maybe this offseason, there could be a deal.
True story. I'm a little bitter because I was getting T-shirts made that said Randy Wood with the pose and the Hollywood sign. I was going to be able to feed families with that T-shirt. So really, that's why I'm bitter about it. But still, and also you got to feel from going to Seattle too. We saw what that did to Teo. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I do feel really good about what the Dodgers did. And the truth of the matter is that the last 2 days, they improved their chances of winning the World Series. Yes. And it wasn't a situation where they did all of their work in the offseason. You did need to address certain things. And it's really going to come down to health. And will Jack Flaherty perform like this for the entire season? I mean, since the beginning of May, a sub-2 ERA. I'm really anxious to see him with my own eyes on an every-start basis. You guys know that you can watch teams around the league, but until they're on your team, I feel like you don't truly know them, right? So I'm really anxious to see how he performs in just this version of Jack Flaherty.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. So one last question before you get out of here. What's your final grade for the Dodgers trade deadline?
I'm going to go B+. I'm a tough grader. I'm going to go B+. I know Dodgers fans might just say, okay, A- or A, but I think B+, just when you consider he is a rental and Kopech is a big question mark. Rosario, he didn't have the same success against lefties last season after he was traded to the Dodgers, so I need to see if he can actually have success against lefties. And then Tommy Edman, we got to see him back. I mean, this is a guy who's on the IL, hasn't played a game this season. So I find it very difficult to give this team an A, but I think a B+. And if it was a C, I would not feel good about this team's chance of winning the World Series. So now I still think that you can feel good about where they're at if everyone comes back. It's a major if, but at least 80% of those guys come back and performs and the guys stay healthy. I still feel like this team's going to be right in the mix in October.
Sounds good to me. I think we can all agree, no matter what grade we give the Dodgers, I like to say they're a winner of this trade deadline. But Doug, thank you so much. I know you got a lot to do. I know you got the Dodgers coming up soon. But Doug, thank you so much for stopping by today. Really do appreciate it, my friend. And let everyone know in the chat what's going on with you. What are you doing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we got Dodgers Dugout Live, #1 Dodgers show on YouTube podcast Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock. Dodgers Nation post-game show. Be at the game doing live streams. Got interviews coming up. Hopefully we get Andrew Friedman, Dodgers president, baseball operations back pretty soon. So, yeah, I mean, I love talking ball with you guys. You guys are the best in the game. So, yeah, I just hope you guys, seriously, take the weekend off, man. Take the weekend off. Just kick back and relax. And, yeah, I mean, free agency is going to be here before you know it.
Can't wait. Well, thank you, Doug. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
All right, take it easy, fellas.
Thanks, Doug.
Bye. All righty. All right, Doug, always fantastic coming on here. But we are talking winners and losers, and I figured, hey, what a good chance to talk the Dodgers, because I think we all consider them, at least I think for the most part, most people consider them a winner. But thank you, Doug, for coming on. But Jim, let's get to some other winners and losers for the trade deadline. Kind of a weird trade deadline, I feel like. It was a big seller's market, of course. I mean, there's a lot of moves, but I felt like we never fully got that big blockbuster move, right? We got Flaherty. You know, we had a couple of pretty solid moves, right? But nothing that ever was earth-shattering by any means. Before we get into it, you know, what were just your overall thoughts on the deadline? I mean, me and you, we were going at it for the whole day. You know, we were seeing everything unfold. What were your overall thoughts now that you've had some time to digest?
Well, it was maybe lacking the School Bowl or the Crochet or the Robert or Rooker or Ward. We didn't see those deals go down, but we saw an incredible volume of trades, and we were getting the big teams, the teams that have been here regularly. You know, the Dodgers, the Yankees. They were making moves. I know Yankee fans were not happy with yesterday. But in the end, what was really cool was we had some new buyers added to the equation, the Royals and the Pirates, and that was really fun to see them. And the Pirates made, I think, what did the Pirates make? Like 4 trades yesterday or something?
Late ones too.
Yeah, they were coming in late. They made, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 trades yesterday from the Pittsburgh Pirates. So I like that we saw some new teams buying, and just in general, I had an amazing time. I had a ton of fun on my stream because of the number of deals, the volume of deals. Again, we didn't get the blockbuster, so there may be those out there that are like, man, come on, we didn't get that. But we had so many deals, and I think that kept it interesting. And whenever AJ Preller is making deals on deadline day, that adds an element of intrigue as well. How about you?
Good grief. The AJ Preller, that was probably the most stunned I got. I mean, the thing is, it's like, did the Marlins set the tone with that, or did the Padres just come barreling in and just say, all right, we're going to give you all this? And it's like, so what? Who set the tone there? I don't even know. I'm sorry. I had a couple Padres fans in there trying to defend it. Sorry. In my opinion, you can't defend what you like. Well, I like Tanner Scott. I do. A good Jason Adam. Good moves. I like the moves, but what the? I mean, they must have confidence. You know,
here's my thing. I think you can do it once, but they did it twice.
Yeah,
they had 2 major overpays for relief pitching. One time, okay, I'll understand it, but you do it 2 times. Sorry, that's you didn't need Jason Adam. The deals that now I'm gonna have to try to like real quick figure out. Oh, Arizona traded for Dylan Floro and AJ Puck, 2 very good relievers. If the Padres had traded for those 2, I would have felt good for them.
Yeah.
And they would have held on to the majority of those prospects.
Yeah.
So the bullpen improvements were out there without having to give up all of those prospects.
Yeah. I mean, even my Red Sox, I mean, they grabbed a couple of relievers. For Luis Garcia, they did have to give up a few guys there, but they were all coming up on Rule 5 eligibility. So, I mean, yeah, like at first when you looked at the package, you're like, wow, they gave up that much for Luis Garcia. But when you looked at it a little deeper, you're like, oh, okay, well, they weren't really going to have a future in Boston anyway.
Right.
So one of those is probably a throw-in to get the deal done. And, you know, but yeah, I agree. I'm like, what the? Robbie Snelling and Dylan Lesko were top 100 prospects coming into the year. I know they've had down years, but what in the world was that? I was stunned. I actually couldn't say anything. I didn't know what to say when I saw that, but they must be very confident that I mean, you know, give the Padres also that slight benefit of the doubt because he has shown he can just refill that farm, right? With international signings, right? So he has done it before. They must have confidence they can do it again. They are in a competitive window, so I appreciate the aggressiveness a little bit, but it was a little bit of a gut punch. But
yeah,
let's talk about some winners. I wouldn't call the Padres a loser necessarily because they did add, you know, to their chances of, you know, getting to the playoffs. As well as, who knows? Maybe they get there. Let's see. You know, let's see what they do. But I'll let you go first. Who was a winner for you at this deadline?
Well, let's just jump right into it. I think the Toronto Blue Jays were a winner of the deadline, and I think they were one of the winners. And I don't think there's much bias coming in here. I think at the end of the day, this team traded away the players they needed to trade. That's part of one of the elements of winners and high grades and losers and low grades and all that. You traded away Kiermaier. They traded away Richards. They traded away Kikuchi and Turner and Yimi Garcia. They also traded away Nate Pearson and got 2 prospects from the Cubs. And Nate Pearson needed a change of scenery. They traded away IKF, and they got a very good prospect back from the Pittsburgh Pirates. They won that trade for IKF. With IKF, they won. I mean, the Astros trade where Kikuchi went for 3 prospects. Jake Bloss, I believe, by Fangraphs, was the #1 Astros prospect. I got Astros fans messaging me during the deadline or after the deal that Will Wagner, a lot of them thought would be the Bregman replacement. And you had Joey Loperfido, who in a previous video a few weeks earlier, when the news came out that the Astros were interested in Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I proposed a trade, and it included Joey Loperfido. And Astros fans up and down, left and right said, hell no, no way. We are not trading Joey Loperfido for Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
I think I did a similar mock trade. I think it, and yeah.
We got wrecked for it. And they end up trading him in a package for Yusei Kikuchi. So that trade, if not for the haul that Miami got back for Tanner Scott, I think that Kikuchi trade would have been arguably one of the best trades executed by a seller. So you get all of those trades. So in the end, they traded a bunch of pieces that were walking out the door that weren't helping them win, and they bring in like 12 or 13 prospects, something like that, and they revitalized their farm system. So this was a seller's market, and the teams that really jumped in and committed to it, like the Blue Jays, came across looking good, and now you're bringing in pieces that are going to help them, because a lot of them are high-level prospects that are going to be there next year when the team is trying to win again. Great job by the Blue Jays. I think they are they're not the winner, but they're one of the top winners from the deadline. How about you?
I agree. Jake Bloss, he is now on Fangraphs the #1 prospect in the Blue Jays system. At least it says 2024 updated. So I don't know if that's just recently been updated or whatever, but either way, he's now a high prospect for the Blue Jays. This is a guy that has a pretty good arsenal of pitches, a big fastball, slider, curveball, changeup, and he's having good results this year. He already got a cup of coffee this year with the Astros. That's a fantastic addition there. And then Luperfido, a guy that has some power, speed, he could end up being a solid player for them. Again, Will Wagner, this is a guy, he seems like has a bit of a high floor. I like that. I actually really like the Charles McAdoo pickup there, right? That they got for IKF. I mean, first off, amazing name, but second of all, he was the #12 prospect in the Pirates system. And I mean, this guy is having an amazing year down in the minor leagues. I mean, there could be some upside there. We'll see.
Yes.
I think they did great. I was thinking, wow, like every move they were making, I'm like, I can't believe it. Right. Blue Jays fans, you're having a dreadful year, but you can walk away from this pretty happy. And I think Ross Atkins saved his job a little bit.
He did. He 100% saved his job. And that Kikuchi trade, no lie, that was the first joy I have felt as a Blue Jay fan all season. That was it. It has been nothing but disappointment and misery. That Kikuchi trade was first joy of the season.
Oh, very good. Well, I'll give you a winner. And I mean, listen, I got to go with, in my opinion, I think they just knocked it out of the park. Player development, that's going to come into play here. It's funny that we're talking about winners and we're going over the sellers first, right? It's kind of funny how that perception is coming out of the deadline. But for me, the Marlins, they absolutely wrecked this deadline. I mean, we were just talking about the Tanner Scott trade. I mean, my goodness. I mean, you get Robbie Snelling in there. I understand Robbie Snelling's having a down year, but that Marlins organization has done a great job with pitching over the last couple of years. They turned Jesus Luzardo around. I mean, even look at Ryan Weathers. They've gotten a lot out of him, and they got him from San Diego. I'm really excited to see what they can do with Robbie Snelling. They got a lot of bats. They got De Los Santos in the AJ Puck deal with the Diamondbacks. They picked up Connor Norby from the Orioles there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my goodness, go down the list here. I actually got to look here because there's so many. You got Kyle Stowers. I mean, just all over the place. It's incredible what they did. And then also Augustin Ramirez and the Jazz Chisholm trade there. The bat has looked pretty good in the minor leagues. Lately, after the call-up, he has had some down numbers, but there's a lot of projection there. He's moved up pretty high on boards out there. I think they did amazing, honestly. They did exactly what they needed to do. They needed to just go crazy with this fire sale. It's unfortunate that Luzardo was hurt, but, you know, if they can just get him healthy for a few more starts for this year, going to the offseason, maybe make a deal there. If not even the offseason, possibly, you know, maybe even the deadline next year. He'll still have another year of control, I believe. I would imagine they would probably want to move him in the offseason. You know, don't want to take any chances. We'll see. But they did amazing here. They added bats all over the place. They even added some pitching too. I love what the Marlins did. I personally gave them an A+ on my grades. They were the only team that got an A+ for me.
I have them as the number one winner of the deadline. They brought in 15 prospects. 15. That is a great job by that team. And yes,
insane.
They will have an off season where they will be fielding calls on Luzardo. Would not be surprised if Sandy Alcantara is also brought up heavily in trade rumors this offseason. So there are more prospects coming in a few months for Miami.
And also, I forgot to mention Graham Pauley, you know, a guy that was with the Padres at the major league level earlier this year. They did great, right? I mean, even go to the draft. I mean, they've been really loading up that system with bats. I mean, they're doing a great job right now. Peter Bendix is on fire. Who would be your net? Well, let's do. What do you want to do? You want to go through the winners first? Or you want to go through or go back and forth? What do you think?
Why don't we, for the sake of just switching it up, let's go losers. Let's grab some losers. I will grab a loser. This is going to be, I could say this about two teams. In my video earlier today, I actually went a level beyond calling them a loser, and I called them failures for the deadline, and that's the Colorado Rockies. And this is more of the same from this organization, holding on to guys that they have to trade. And this time, the group of players were Elias Diaz, Cal Quantrill, and Ryan McMahon. This was an incredible seller's market. One of the maybe best sellers market we've seen in a couple of years. And they moved a couple of low-tier relief pitchers. That's all they did. Cal Quantrill should not be on the team. Elias Diaz should not be on the team. Kansas City could have taken Elias Diaz. Kansas City only grabbed Paul DeJong. There's only bat during this whole situation that they grabbed. Elias Diaz should be a Colorado Rocky to just be their DH. The New York Yankees could have grabbed Elias Diaz for what he can do behind the plate and throwing runners out. He should have been moved. This team did it last year. They did it the year before. They're holding on to guys that they should be trading. It goes beyond a loss. It is an absolute failure by the Colorado Rockies that they do it time and time again. I feel terrible for that fan base that they have to suffer through this. They're not going to win anything anytime soon, and they're holding on to pieces. They just don't know how to do it. And it's multiple general managers now that we're going through this with, so it's got to be the ownership. The ownership they're just people that should not be in baseball. They should sell the team and go find another hobby, because baseball, they don't know, apparently. How about you?
I agree. They were one of my losers for this year. I mean, who knows what the Cal Quantrill thing was? I mean, I don't know. He's not putting up amazing numbers this year. I mean, we saw a couple other starters that ended up not getting moved. I wonder, did they even get a phone call on him? I don't even know.
I'm sure they did.
Who knows? I'm sure they did, but
yeah.
I thought he was going to get moved. I kind of thought about this too. I wonder with that, the escapades against the Red Sox. I'm not trying to make this like a biased thing, but you know what he was yelling at with Reese McGuire there. I wonder if teams maybe got a little turned off by that. You know what I mean? Because it's like it was a little. I mean, I think everyone was in the majority. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you even first off, he was celebrating against Reese McGuire for just like a pop out, and it was like, what are you doing? And then he just yells that. So I actually wonder if maybe there was like, nah, we don't want that guy on our team.
Maybe,
you know what I mean?
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe that's just a little conspiracy on my end. But either way, he's an arm at the end of the day. I'm surprised. But yeah, they didn't really do much. The one thing with the Rockies, I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority here. I do like a lot of the prospects they already have. I wonder if they could be a team that maybe like could be kind of fun in a couple of years, because I do like some of the players they have in their organization. But you hit it on the head there. They didn't do anything. I mean, they didn't really get anyone. I mean, they brought back, like a Bradley Blaylock in the Rockies deal, a guy with a higher floor, in my opinion. They did something, but yeah, I feel like they could have done more. So they were a loser for me. I agree. For me, if I were to go, if I had a fail, I just went winners and losers in my own video. But if I went with a failure, for me, it's the Twins. I don't know what the heck the Twins are doing.
Trevor Richards, baby.
You got Trevor Richards. Don't get me wrong. At least you did something. But
that's it.
The Twins are low-key a very good team, right? I know they disappoint every single time they make it to the American League Division round. Who knows? That could probably happen again this year. We'll see. But they do have a good team. They do have a good offense. They got some good players there. They got some, even despite Sonny Gray leaving, they still have a pretty solid rotation for the most part. I wanted them to add something else, and I guess there was something with TV money or revenue from that was preventing them. And I get it if you don't have. I don't know, but
then trade Max Kepler. They have guys. If you're dealing with TV money issues, Max Kepler out, and you don't have to do it all on deadline day. We had trades that really ramped up. What was it? Thursday or Friday? It really started to get going. We were together. The first real trade was the AJ Puck trade. We were live streaming with John from Baseball Trade Values. That deal went down, and then after that, deals started to happen. So you had plenty of time. If you're dealing with money issues, you should have traded Max Kepler. There are teams that could have taken the bat, even if it's just a salary dump. Don't get anything in return, fine. Don't get anything in return. But if it frees you up to then go make a trade with the Rockies for Cal Quantrill, because that could have been a destination to add some depth to that rotation, because I think that's more about what they need. Yeah, I am with you 100%. The Minnesota Twins could have found a way to improve the club. They didn't. And now I'll be honest, there will be questions in my mind about them having the ability to stay in it and remain even in the wild card hunt.
Yeah. Even Cleveland, they made moves, right? They didn't make any blockbuster moves by any means. They made a pretty out of the box move, right? Bringing in Cobb, who hasn't pitched yet this year. But still, we know he's solid when he's healthy. Lane Thomas was kind of a weird sort of an overpay, but okay, they added a bat. I don't know. I feel like the Twins, with what the Guardians did, they didn't really keep pace. So I don't know. Well, let's hop back to some winners. And who's another winner that you got?
Another winner. I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Rays, and that may seem like a surprise because they traded Randy Rosarena, and it seemed like it was a underwhelming return. I think most out there believe that it could have been more. Baseball Trade Values, their evaluation of the pieces in that trade. It was an up and up trade. It worked for both sides. It was not a lopsided deal. It's not like Seattle stole him. So we sort of lean on some of that to get some idea on the value. But then in addition to that, this Tampa Bay team moved Isaac Paredes. They brought back Christopher Morel and 2 prospects. Now, Paredes is the best player in that deal, but you get somebody to replace him, and you get 2 prospects to try to work on. The big win is certainly the Jason Adam trade, bringing back the prospects that they brought back from San Diego.
I like Lesko more than Snelling.
Yeah, that was a great job. And then the trade with the Orioles, turning Zach Eflin into 3 prospects from the Baltimore Orioles farm system. So just a lot of trades. And even the Randy Arozarena trade, it's Aiden Smith, Brody Hopkins, and a player to be named later. I don't know if we know who that player is yet, But you got 3 pieces for Randy Arozarena. A lot of players heading out. I want to say we probably have about, I'm just eyeballing it, maybe like, again, probably close to 15 prospects coming in, 6 or 7 pieces going out. And at the end of the day, there's going to be players. Look, the Rays scouting department and how they evaluate and grade players, I trust that they are winning most of these trades. And if that's the case, this team does what they need to do. They set themselves up to be back in it with their farm system coming up and being the guys, because they're not going to be able to go out and spend the money in free agency. This is how you do it. This is how you do that. You go out and you turn 7 guys into 15 guys, and obviously all of those are not going to hit. But if 5 of them do, you're in a great place in 3 years.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were right up there with the Marlins. I put the Marlins a little bit ahead of the Rays. I mean, but I think you can make the argument that I think they just came in a good, solid tie, right? They had, according to my calculations, my potato brain does not do math very well, but I think I'm counting 14 additions yesterday or over the last few days before the deadline. Very similar. And hey, Peter Bendix, coming from the Rays, it looks like these guys just tag teamed on the market. Right? Yeah. I don't know what was going on. I think they were just working together here. I don't know. But a lot of high upside bats that the Rays brought in, but they also brought in some high upside pitching in here too. I mean, Lesko. I mean, now that I'm even saying it out loud, I think you could even make the argument maybe the Rays actually did a little better than the Marlins. I mean, now I'm starting to think it's at least a tie. But, you know, I love the addition of Christopher Morel, to be honest with you. I mean, not the greatest numbers so far this year. I actually like that trade overall. Yeah. Because even though it was a major overpay on one part, I think when I was kind of looking at the calculations a little bit, I actually think it was more closer to the middle than what was actually being said on baseball trade values, because I think Paredes, I think with him, I think he's a better fit with the Cubs, because I think the Cubs, they want more of like a higher floor kind of a guy right now. I think they want someone that they know is going to produce. You know, Morel has that higher ceiling where, you know, they weren't fully able to tap into it. And I think for the Rays, that's a perfect organization for him. So I think they both found a better home here. I think just better fits for the organizations with where they are competitively. So I like that move. You know, you also added a lot of upside here, like someone like a Homer Bush Jr., extremely athletic. That's like a perfect Rays kind of a guy. You added some other bats like Mac Horvath. He has some upside there. I like the Aiden Smith addition in the Randy Arozarena deal. Even someone like a Hunter Biggie you got back in that Cubs deal. A guy that's a high upside arm there. I just liked a lot of what the Rays did. And as a Red Sox fan, I mean, I hate it. You know, because it's like, here they are just acquiring all this talent. And most of all, you got Dylan Lesko. Again, another bad season, or not another bad season, but another guy that's having a bad season like Robbie Snelling. But Lesko, man, I mean, that stuff's off the charts. I mean, there were talks of him in that draft being a top 10 pick. I just think that's crazy that they got him for Jason Adam. I mean, like, it's a reliever. It's crazy, man. But yeah, they did great. I agree. Another winner for me, and I actually feel like this fan base, they might disagree with me a little bit. I agree. I think I know what this fan base is going to say, but I still consider them at least winners to me. That's the Orioles, right? We all wanted the Orioles to go after Tarek Skubal. We all wanted them to land a Garrett Crochet, right? Maybe even Luis Robert. But I think they addressed a lot of needs. They made a lot of moves. They just didn't make that one big move, so I feel like it left people a little deflated, I think, because everyone's like, oh, Skubal. We got to add this guy. We have the prospects. We can get a deal done. I think the Orioles, in the end, they still were able to hang on to all of their top prospects, and they made a lot of good additions, right? I like Eflin in that rotation. I do, and he's a guy that's pitched in the postseason. Was just pitching in a World Series a couple of years ago. You know, Rogers from the Marlins, you know, he's having an okay year. But what I like about those additions is that let's see what they can do for them in the postseason this year. We'll see. Skubal definitely would have been someone that can carry you to the promised land. But what I like about Eflin and Rogers is they can help you this year, but they're going to have them in the rotation for next year too. And who knows what happens with Corbin Burns? He's a free agent. My guess, he probably ends up leaving.
Yep.
He's going to get big money. He'll go to the Dodgers or the Yankees or who knows? Who knows where he goes? I feel like the Orioles, this almost kind of signals that they're just getting ready for Burns to leave. So I think there's that aspect of that, and then they also, they brought in some key pieces for the bench there. Eloy Jimenez is really interesting. That could be a bit of a platoon with Ryan O'Hearn. You brought in a couple of pieces for the bullpen there. Sir Anthony Dominguez, Tanner Banks as well. Oh, no, sorry. No, not Tanner Banks. Who was the other guy? Soto, sorry. I'm thinking of the other lefty. Yeah, Soto they brought in. They're both having okay years. So they're just bolstering things up, adding some more depth. I thought they did okay here. I think they did pretty decent while hanging on to their top prospects, and they got a couple of key guys for next year as well. So I think they are winners. Might be a bit underwhelming to a lot of people, but I like what they did.
I think that's a good way to put it. They're winners, but it is a little underwhelming. And it's not because of the Tarek Skubal rumors, everybody. That was always a long shot. They were one of the teams that could do it. But everybody out there under the sun believed that this was a long shot trade. What we're looking at here, how I still classify them as winners, is that instead of going out there and making the big splash, they kind of went out there and got two of everything that they needed, just in case one of them doesn't work. You get Eflin and Rogers. You get Jimenez and Slater. You get Dominguez and Soto. So it wasn't just so based on the volume of players that they brought in, I got to give them a win because, again, let's say Eflin struggles. Okay, well, you got Rogers. And again, both of them do line up next year. I think that is certainly an indicator as to how they think it's going to go with Corbin Burns. But then let's also consider what they didn't do. They didn't trade Mountcastle. They didn't trade Cedric Mullins. So that is good. If they had traded Mountcastle to Houston and gotten a prospect back, that would have hurt them. So I like that they held on to those two pieces. So, and in the end, really the prospect, the only one that anybody is, I think, ever really going to miss is Connor Norby. Kyle Stowers Stowers was never going to play, never going to get time. Matt Horvath, Seth Johnson, they were around the back of the top 10, the low teens there. But really the only one that anyone's ever going to miss is Connor Norby. And they brought in all those players, all those chances to hit, all those chances to add to their bullpen, their rotation, and the bats that they're looking for off the bench. Yeah. It was a good job. It was a win. Again, not one of the top winners, but a win nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, the way I kind of look at it, I almost look at it, maybe I connected with it personally because I'm a guy where I'll confess, I don't mind the store brand products. You go to Publix down here in Florida, everything's expensive. Chips Ahoy cookies are like $6 for a pack of 30. You go to Aldi right down the road, you can get a pack of like 40 of them for half the price. So it's like, they're still going to, maybe they don't taste exactly like a Chips Ahoy, but they're still going to do the job. They're going to be cheaper. You saved a few bucks and you get a little bit more of it. That's kind of the way I look at it, right? Sure. I think they did fine. We'll see though. I mean, in the postseason, I said this on, my stream yesterday. Will there be a moment in the postseason where, you got like Trevor Rogers on the mound, he gets shelled and let's, hypothetical, let's say Trevor Rogers on the mound gets shelled. You drop, your series in the division round. Do you look back, or maybe the championship series or whatever? Do you look back and think, dang, we should have gotten Skubal, right? We should have gotten that big piece. I wonder if that could end up being something. We'll see. Elias has been here before. He's made these moves before. I trust that he feels confident. We'll see. They did add a lot, though, so I'll give them that. We'll go one more loser. Yeah. I think we've done each. Or no.
We've done two winners. We've done two winners and one loser each.
Okay, so let's do a quick loser, and then we'll go back to one more winner, and then we'll end on a loser. For me, this was a weird one. This was a really weird deadline. The
Mhm.
Giants. I don't know
Mhm.
what this deadline was for the Giants. It
Salary
was
dump all the way.
yeah, but like that. So like okay, so hear me out.
Mhm.
Yes, they got rid of salary dumps. I get it, but why is Snell still on the team? And why are you bringing Mark Canna? Like that's I don't know. I'm confused about it. I felt weird
Mhm.
about it.
Mhm.
It felt like they were trying to go one way and they couldn't fully finish the job. So they were like, okay, all right, let's bring in Canna. It almost felt like they didn't even know what they were doing. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you can help me out here. I just
Mm-mm.
didn't like this deadline for the Giants. If I was understanding it at first, and then they turned around and did not trade Snell when there was definitely rumors out there of teams being interested in him. I don't know
Yeah.
if obviously the contract probably came into play there, but they got rid of Soler for crying out loud. I mean, I know
Yeah.
there was a player option with Snell, but I don't know. I feel like you maybe could have figured something out. What do I know? I'm not an expert. And then they got Mark Canna for some odd reason. Help me out here, Jim.
Sure.
What do you think?
It was a deadline where it felt like they tried to live with one foot, a foot on each side of the fence, and so they tried to straddle it. And at the end of the day, they made their team worse, and I think it's going to cost them a playoff spot. The Blake Snell pitching the way he's been pitching, Robbie Ray coming back, you have Webb. Cobb was on the cusp of returning. I feel like with that group, they had the potential to put together one of the best rotations for the last 2 months of the season. And they moved Cobb out of the equation. So maybe Giants fans still feel good about what they've got right now, and they can still do that. Cobb obviously would have added to it. And when it comes to Jorge Soler, I actually think it was probably a good idea because
Yeah, I agree.
he doesn't play there. That ended up being them admitting they probably made a mistake with the player and evaluating the talent for the team and the ballpark. So I think it was the right thing to do. But then I think I think there was a better way to go about what they did to still stay in it. They made their team they made the team worse moving forward. I think again, I think it will cost them a playoff spot. I would have liked to have seen them try to find a way. The Mark Cannon thing again. Why are you even doing it at this point? It was a deadline that just was all about salary dumps and not making the team better this year or down the road. So that's I think really what this is like. Well, what are we doing here when we are at the deadline at a point where we are trying to decide which way we're going to go, and instead of them deciding which way they're going to go, they just decided to dump salary.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. You know, if you pick one lane and stick to it, that's fine. But it just felt like they didn't finish the job, and then they just made one weird move. I mean, I
Yeah.
see in the chat, Brave Thrills, he says here was a salary dump and buying for 2025 like the Cubs. What did they bring in? They didn't bring anything. They got Tyler Matzik. There's a club option for him,
Right.
but he hasn't really been anything the last couple of years. I don't know. I don't know what they.
Well, that's the thing. That I think is part of it is they could have done a better job of that, and they really, quite frankly, didn't, because I don't think anyone feels that good about what they got back for Cobb. I don't think anybody feels good about what they got back for Soler and Jackson. It was so underwhelming and so disorganized. I don't know if that's the right word, but it just left you wanting. And at the end of the day, I think it will cost them. Again, let's say Soler's not a great fit there. Soler was still a bat, and that they removed from their team. And Cobb is a pitcher that could have helped the rotation down the stretch. It would have been like trading for a pitcher at the deadline without having to trade for a pitcher at the deadline. Both of those pieces are gone. The team is not as good as it could have been down the stretch. And for that reason, I think, again, I'll say it for like the third or fourth time, I think because of it, they'll miss the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely doesn't give me any more confidence in them. We got in the chat here, Ryan Cook says they're saving money to go all in for Roki. I mean, they did land some free agents this past offseason. I mean, but look how that's turned out. And Roki Sasaki, I'm sorry, that guy's a Dodger at this point. I am convinced everyone from Japan is going to the Dodgers. I don't know what to say. Let's see. But we got a winner here. So I believe.
Hold on, let me give you my second loser.
Oh, did I get? I'm sorry. No, you're right.
Okay.
Go.
No, it's okay. There are a lot of different ways to go here, but I am. Oh man, there's so many ways to go. Let me go with the. I'm going to go with the Houston Astros. The only thing they did was overpay for Yusei Kikuchi. That's all they did. They could have had Jack Flaherty for that package. They could have done so much more. They should have been able to hold on to pieces. That Kikuchi was an overpay. They could have got Josh. All it cost Arizona to get Josh Bell was cash. So to not grab a first baseman, to overpay for Yusei Kikuchi, and that is the takeaway from the deadline. I mean, we don't need to talk about it too long. That is a loss. That is a loser deadline for the Houston Astros.
Yeah, I agree. I had the Astros up next. I mean, I like that you're adding to the rotation. They needed to add to the rotation, but you gave up a lot, man. Like you gave up a lot. I don't know. It just felt weird for half a season of Kikuchi. Gave up Loper Fido.
Oh my God! Right. And that's the thing. When you say that again, it's just like the Tanner Scott thing. It's 2 months, and if you make a deep playoff run, okay, it's 3 months of Yusei Kikuchi for those 3 prospects. It doesn't make any sense. The Tanner Scott thing for all of those prospects for 3 months at most of Tanner Scott. It's just like it kind of hits you again. It's like, oh my God, that's right. It's not even Kikuchi for like this year and next year. It's Kikuchi for a couple of months. They gave up that much. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and the other thing that I don't like about it too is the Astros. They have had one of the lower ranked farm systems in the game for a couple of years now, and I mean, they must have confidence that they can just kind of keep filling back up, with the draft and. People got to remember you do have the draft every single year, right? You're replenishing that farm with 20 new players. So the Astros must feel okay to be able to part with that. It just feels a little out of place. I would say for me, one more loser. I mean, I could really go a few different ways here. A part of me wants to go with a hot one and say the White Sox because
you could. And I will back you up on that. I will back you up on that if you want to say that.
You know what I mean? Like you could say the White Sox because I don't want to. It's the thing. Crochet kind of screwed him over a little bit. Like he did not help them out. And I get it, he's looking out for himself. I'm not trying to say that to talk badly about him, but it is what it is. I mean, they came out and said that he wants an extension, and I don't know, but when you're just looking at it from a checks and balances point of view, I mean, they brought in some prospects, but I feel like nothing really excites me. I mean, you got Vargas there. He was a higher ranked prospect last year, but I see him as more of like a higher floor. I mean, you brought in like William Bergolla from the Phillies. Again, I feel like they brought in like higher floor kind of guys. And like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I just feel like there wasn't much.
You're right. No, you are 100% right. And I don't even put the loss on the Garrett Crochet situation because that was out of his control. That is got to be a fractured relationship now between the player and the front office, or at least the player's management and the front office, because that ended up being a circus. But it turns where I go with the loss for the White Sox is that the pieces that they dealt, specifically Tanner Banks, specifically Eric Fetty, the Michael Kopech, the Tommy Pham, the 3-team trade, it kind of felt like, I don't know, Chris Getz got confused with the 3-team trade. Like he heard all these names flying around and he thought he was getting more in return. Because I feel like Fetty on his own could have brought you 3 good prospects. Look at what Kikuchi did. Fetty after the Fetty trade, GMs should have been running to the phone to try to get trades done before anything else could happen because it looked like a steal. It was a steal. The Cardinals won that trade going away.
Yeah, they didn't even give up. They give up Edman, which I like, but
they give up Edman and another toss-in prospect that I think ended up going to the Dodgers. But you did not get the right return for Fetty, and I don't think you got a good enough return for Pham or Kopech. Kopech could have brought you a top 30 prospect. Pham could have brought you a top 25, all on their own. Pham probably could have even brought you 2, and Fetty could have brought you 3. So they messed that up. Tanner Banks for what relievers were going for. I think you probably could have gotten 2. So it's really not even about Crochet because he got screwed for that one. And it's probably the right thing to do to trade Luis Robert in the offseason, more so than it is right now. So it's more about the returns for the deals that they did get. And I think they all leave you underwhelmed and wanting more.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I talked myself into it. I think I gave the White Sox, what did I give them? I gave them a C. On my grades, I did a C. But to me, that's a loss. Like you should have had an A. I mean, this was like a home run easily. Like, and you swung and missed. You had a meatball thrown at you, and you missed it. I could name off a couple other losers.
Can I say this real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
I think the Toronto Blue Jays did a better job with the Kevin Kiermaier trade than the White Sox did with the Tommy Pham trade. I'll just leave it like that. I
mean, I think they did better with the IKF trade. I mean, you got McAdoo.
Completely.
I mean, better player than I feel like any or more upside than any of the players the White Sox got, and a better name than any of the players the White Sox got. That's my favorite name right now,
Indeed.
Mr. McAdoo. You could say some other teams. I feel like the Reds were kind of weird. I feel like they were blurring the lines. I feel like they could have done more, right? India, you could have gotten maybe something for him. I don't know, like going Martinez on there. I mean, why didn't he get moved? I mean, I feel like he could have gotten something back. I don't know. The A's, I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like the A's, they got a couple of good pieces, but again, I feel like you could have done more there. I guess they really just want to hang on to Rooker.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Rangers, they ended up pretty much standing pat. They added Chafin there, but the Rangers are weird to me. It's there was those teams that I just listed. They were kind of in that weird zone for me. So I'll give you one more winner.
Let me give you one last loser, and I think it might surprise you because you haven't mentioned them. I think the Angels are a loser. I think the Angels. I can
see why. Yeah,
I put them in as a failure. So I didn't even give them as a loser. I put them as a team that failed the deadline. I like they traded the relievers. They got a nice return for Estevez, but this is about the full body of work here and doing what you're supposed to do, and they didn't do what they were supposed to do. Tyler Anderson and Luis Rengifo, there's no reason for them to be on the team today. There's no reason for them to be on the team next year. You had an opportunity in an incredible seller's market to trade those pieces. You didn't do it. They will probably end up trading them in the offseason. And when they do that, they will get less than they could have gotten right now. This team, again, good job on what they did do. But this is more about what they didn't do, and that's why they get a fail, because it felt like they went not even halfway to what they needed to do. They held on to Taylor Ward. Okay, fine. I get that. You want to wait. You can wait on him because you got 2.5 years of him. What about Kevin Pillar? Why didn't Kevin Pillar go? Again, there were opportunities for the Angels. It feels like they didn't. Again, the saying is, they didn't even go halfway. They didn't even go halfway to halfway. So I kind of look at what they did as not really classifying it as a loss, but classifying it as a failure, because they should have been able to capitalize on Tyler Anderson, and they should have been able to capitalize on Rengifo.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was in the middle. I was smack dab in the middle on the Angels because I did like the pieces they brought in. They got a volume package from the Red Sox, and they brought in a couple of pretty good high upside guys that are on the rise this year in Clausen and Aldegary. So I did like that. I thought that was good. But again, like you're saying, Rengifo, Ward, I mean, it's I don't know. You just didn't see those guys get moved. And Anderson, you could honestly, I was saying this about Anderson on prior streams. I said I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up staying because the metrics are lagging behind the surface numbers. So and he's getting money, a good amount of money. So I was saying that I could see him staying just because I don't think teams they didn't really see much and they didn't really see it worth it. That was the prediction I made. But I thought Rengifo would end up getting moved. I did still hold out that he could end up staying because I feel like every year you hear his name and he never moves. Same thing with Ward. I feel like we've heard his name a bit and he just ends up staying. But again, they didn't capitalize fully. I did give them a B. I could see like a C plus there. You know, now that I've digested it a little bit more. I just, at the time when I was processing it, I went just right in the middle. I guess I didn't know what to give them, but I can totally understand, you know, saying they're a failure because where you are as an organization, you need to maximize these deadlines. And I don't know.
I'll say this about the Tyler Anderson piece. Being as much a buyer's market as it was, with everything about Tyler Anderson, that makes this the perfect time to trade Tyler Anderson because let's say you don't get a great haul back for him, but if you get two prospects, a team's 15 and a team's 30, that's still better than having Tyler Anderson on your team moving forward. And no one's going to crush you for that. No one's going to say, oh, you didn't get enough for Tyler Anderson. I think that you're right about the money. He is still owed a significant dollar amount next year, but being such a seller's market, this would have been the best time to trade him because things will calm down in the off season for him. And if they do trade him, then they'll get even less.
Yeah. Very interesting for the Angels. Let's see if any of those guys turn out. I'll give you one more winner. I mean, we already talked about the Dodgers, so we talked with Doug. For me, I've got to go Yankees. I think the Yankees did well. I think they did.
Okay.
I think people think they had an underwhelming deadline, but I think they could have done more. I wouldn't say they're like my top winner or even in my top three, but I would still put them in that sort of upper category there. I think they just did a great job adding Jazz, and they didn't give up too much for him. You gave up Augusto Ramirez, but someone you didn't really need, but you know, someone that would service better with the Marlins. And Jazz adds speed. He adds a left-handed bat with some power there. He's honestly kind of a perfect fit. I saw a lot of Yankee fans just complaining out there. I'm going blank on his name. He's the guy that had the funny reaction when Rafael Devers hit the home run off of Aroldis Chapman. Josie McFly. He put out there today, I don't know if it was just for clicks or whatever, but he was like, it was a terrible deadline.
No, they hated it. They hated it.
Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm a Red Sox fan. Like, I'm literally saying you had a pretty good deadline. You got Mark Leiter Jr. for the bullpen. I understand. Maybe you could have added another arm there. Looked like Flaherty was going to be a guy. But again, I was told, and then it ended up coming out a little bit later, that they weren't very high on the medicals with Flaherty. So, you know, I understand that. If you didn't get him, then if you didn't want to acquire him, then okay. Yeah, they could have added another guy, but I did like the Jazz pickup, and so far it is looking pretty good. It's looking really good. And it seems like he's adding another dimension to that lineup. He's extending it. And then when you get Jason Dominguez back, I mean, you're looking at a potentially very good lineup for the Yankees when Dominguez comes back. Oof, I'm really liking it. I like the Mark Leiter Jr. move. I thought that was really good for the bullpen. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a Scott Efros kind of a thing. But I like what the Yankees did. I'll call them a winner personally.
No, you're Joe's McFly, the guys from Talking Yanks. I watched the first 5 minutes of their of the podcast that they posted on YouTube, and they hated it. They were despondent.
Of course, they need the clicks.
They were you could
not that they need the clicks, but I don't know.
No, but looking at their facial expressions and listening to them talk, it would have been quite an acting job for them. They did not like it. They were going through reasons, and they were going through why, because the Yankees had been talked with Flaherty, they had been talked with Tanner Scott, and they didn't get any of those pieces. So there was definitely some disappointment there. But at the end of the day, the Jazz Chisholm deal is great. And just because if it had happened on deadline day, maybe there would have been a different attitude. I think it was more about deadline day that they were
I think so too. Yeah.
disappointed with deadline day, not necessarily the deadline as a whole, because the Jazz Chisholm trade and the way Jazz has been playing, that could go down as one of the top trades from this deadline. And if you have that in your pocket, you have a winning deadline, even if it is just barely winning. If it is just barely a B or higher, it's still a win, and they are in a good position. And you know what else? They also didn't overpay for Tanner Scott. Like if you had seen Spencer Jones go to Miami for Tanner Scott, I think you would have been irate.
Yankee fans would be like, "What the heck are you doing?"
Yeah, that might have been what you had to do to get Tanner Scott. If that's what the package was that San Diego was throwing at you, you had to probably throw Tanner Scott, or not Tanner Scott, but not Jason Dominguez, Jones in the trade. So by not overpaying for Tanner Scott, by getting Jazz Chisholm, by not taking a pitcher that you didn't feel good about the medicals, in the end, I'm with you. I think it is a win. I don't think it's an overwhelming win, but it is a win for the New York Yankees and their deadline. I agree with you on that.
And for my baseball trade values people here in the chat, and for anyone that looks at the site, at least according to my calculations, maybe I'm missing one, but Jazz was the highest valued player moved at this deadline, according to baseball trade values. When you take a look at the overall package, the performance, the little amount of money he's being paid, the amount of control he has left until free agency, he was the highest valued player moved by this deadline. And also he went to the Yankees. So.
CWE's commenting in the live chat, getting Diaz would have made sense too, because that was the other thing.
Yeah, that would have been
Diaz. Nice. But here's the thing. What we had heard about Yandy Diaz is that there were 3 teams in on him: Houston, Seattle, and New York. Yeah. I have a feeling that Tampa either didn't want to move him or Tampa overplayed their hand. And feeling like you've got New York and Houston and Seattle all on the line, you're going to ask for a lot. And at the end of the day, neither team were willing to overpay for Yandy Diaz. And again, not overpaying for Yandy Diaz is probably a good thing in the end. I think Houston should have maybe overpaid for Yandy Diaz, but they had already overpaid for.
Well, they gave up all their prospects.
Yeah, they couldn't do it after the Yusei Kikuchi deal.
Yeah, but in the end, I think they did pretty well. One more winner from your side?
You know what? Let's do it. Let's give the Pittsburgh Pirates a winning grade. Right. Let's not gloss over them. I don't think I would give them an A, but I didn't look at it like that this year. I looked at it as winners, losers, and failures. And I gave the Pittsburgh Pirates a winning grade. They pulled off 4 trades. 4 on deadline day. And maybe the best piece, now they didn't win the Blue Jays trade, but the Brian De La Cruz trade is the one that stands out to me because can you get him to be a 30 homer bat? Can you get him to that point? You still have several years with him under control. The pieces that they gave up, I feel like they won that trade. Brian De La Cruz could end up being along with Brian Reynolds, those 2 out there in that outfield. I like it. I like what you're doing there, because this is what Pittsburgh needed to do and what Kansas City needed to do, and both of them did this, and they did this very well. They traded for pieces that help you right now, try to continue this season and keep it going for as long as you can. They also traded for pieces that are going to help you next year. IKF is under control for next year. So you grabbed pieces that are going to be around, help you make a run now, help you next year as you continue to evolve into the winner and the contender that you're evolving into. So I give them a lot of credit. And what they gave up, again, we look at the McAdoo trade, the McAdoo and IKF trade, and we're giving Blue Jays good grades on that trade. But in the end, really, they were able to grab they were able to grab 5 guys, and I don't think they gave up much that they're going to miss. So
Yeah.
Good job. Good job. I got to give the Pittsburgh Pirates their due. I think they won this trade deadline, and so did Kansas City, for that matter. I think Kansas City won the deadline with all of their moves. Even though they only got one bat, they got a ton of pitching, and it's pitching for a couple of years. I like what Pittsburgh did. I like what Kansas City did. I like that we were talking about them as buyers at this deadline for the first time in a while.
Yeah, and I agree on the Pirates. They were looking like a bust going into like the last hour. I'm thinking, are they going to add a bat? Like, what they need to add a bat? They're adding like these like lower key kind of pitchers, and I'm like, what is happening? And then they pulled off the moves. Not the sexiest names. Brian De La Cruz. He's been okay this year. Sure, IKF. Yes, IKF for me. He is valuable when it comes to his versatility. Right? And luckily he's having the best season of his career with the bat. But hey, don't forget they also added Red Sox legend Nick York. I thought that was a good ad. It was a good ad for them. I mean, I know that's probably making me sound biased, but I like Nick York as a prospect. He didn't have a home in Boston. He was blocked. He was coming up on Rule 5. He's gonna have a chance in Pittsburgh. That's a solid get. He's one of those kind of gritty players. He's like a dirt dog kind of a player. I thought it was a good ad for Pittsburgh. The Red Sox got Quinn Priester there. He wasn't working out with the Pirates, but I agree with you. I would say for me, a couple others to mention. You mentioned the Royals. I love the bullpen additions they made. The Cardinals, I think you got to mention them, right? You added Fetty. Sure. I would have liked personally Eflin for the Cardinals. I just would like for them to have a guy that's pitched in the World Series a couple of years ago. Maybe I'm overinflating that a little bit. I don't know. That's just me. But I think Fetty's fine. Let's see how it goes in the postseason if they get there. And hey, Tommy Pham, hey, coming back with a bang, right?
They got Pham for nothing. They basically got Pham for nothing.
Yeah. And had the grand slam. So already off to a good start. Cardinals there. I think the Phillies. Phillies, they didn't make any blockbusters, but you made some good moves. You brought in Banks, you brought in Hayes. Solid moves that kind of shore things up, really kind of, put those couple extra screws in there for the postseason. I like that. And you know what? Let's go back to that, the stream we had with John, the D-backs. They didn't make a lot, but they made their moves count, I think.
They did.
They added bullpen help, which they really needed, and they got AJ Puck. I like that a lot. They're a team that they're already getting acquisitions within the system coming back from the IL, right? You're getting Erod, Jordan Montgomery back. You're going to get Merrill Kelly back. So they didn't need to do a whole lot. They already have a pretty good offense, in my opinion. They shored up that bullpen with a big arm back there. I think the Diamondbacks, they could be sneaky.
They grabbed Floro.
Oh, Floro. Sorry. Yes. Thank you.
They grabbed Josh Bell. They Walker goes down and you go get Josh Bell for cash.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, it was a very good job by the Diamondbacks.
Yeah. Don't be surprised. Do not be surprised if the Diamondbacks, once again, they're kind of right in that same spot as they were last year. They're hanging around. And if they get in to that postseason, don't be surprised if they go on another run. Yeah. I'm just saying. Right.
We'll Ethan in the chat. We have I have the Mariners as winners. Do you have the Mariners as winners?
Did we not talk about the Mariners?
I don't think we talked about the Mariners.
Oh wow! I thought I looked at them on my list, and I think we had talked about Rosarena somewhere, and I'm thinking
we covered it.
Yeah, no, Mariners are definitely a winner for me. Wow, I feel bad not bringing them up because they were number 2 on my list. I for some reason thought we talked about them. Real quick, I love their deadline, right, Randy? But funny enough, I actually almost like the Justin Turner move just as much as Randy Rosarena because Justin Turner. Here's why. Randy Rosarena is definitely he's gonna bring more impact, but I think Turner brings more floor that they need. They need a guy that makes a lot of contact, walks a good amount, gets on base. They need a guy like that. Someone that's he's not gonna, make the Sports Center top 10, right? He's not gonna, get the big home runs, but he's gonna be a guy that keeps the lineup going. Right? He's gonna be a guy that puts the ball in play a little bit. I like the Justin Turner move. And Randy, of course, right? He's been hitting a lot better as of late, gets on base, he works the counts. That's what they needed to do. They shored up the bullpen a little bit. Great deadline for the Mariners. I apologize, Mariners fans, for not bringing that up. I thought we did. So, very good.
I also think Cleveland won. Grabbing a pitcher, grabbing a bat. Those are two things they needed to do. Didn't go crazy, but I think they achieved the two needs, and I think they did it very well. I'm curious to know what you think about the Mets. I have the Mets as a winner.
Really?
I have
Ooh.
the Mets as a winner because in the end, and I think Andy Martino put it great on SNY when they were sort of getting together and sort of recapping the whole thing. The team with their performance had earned the right to keep the group together,
Yeah.
and they could grab a wild card spot. And this is basically the Mets are not a World Series or bust team, but they're a fun team, and let's see how long we can keep it going kind of team. And in the end, while I believe that the Nats won the Jesse Winker trade, um, I don't think. And my big thing about the New York Mets is that if they were to buy, I didn't want them to give up anything of consequence, nothing that's going to hurt them down the road, and they didn't. And adding Paul Blackburn, I think, is a very underrated move. Most Mets fans, when that deal got done, I was very happy for them in the stream. Mets fans that were coming in, I was getting super chats. I can't remember by who. Um, who was it? I can't remember who did, but it was a there was general disinterest in Paul Blackburn, and I thought it was a very good move for the New York Mets because Paul Blackburn's also under control for next season. So you got a guy with Paul Blackburn who's got another year. I felt like they did a good job bolstering the bullpen, adding a bat with Jesse Winker, adding rotation help with Paul Blackburn for this year and next, and they didn't give up anything of consequence. I think that it for the New York Mets and for the mindset that they were in, the mentality that they were in, that was a win. They could have capitalized on the seller's market, but they have again earned the right to keep the band together and try to grab a wild card spot. And let's just see how long we can keep it going.
Yeah, I think you pretty much hit all the good points there. I would say I like the Winker edition. He's having a renaissance of a year. That'll add a left-handed bat there. He can go with a guy like the Tyrone Taylor as a platoon, basically. I would have liked to see. I like the Paul Blackburn move. It's not the sexiest name. He's not. Yeah, nope. He's not having the best year. Obviously, he's had some injuries this year. He has been a guy that, he's shown he can give you some good innings. I just worry about the health with him.
Can I throw this out there?
Yeah.
His breaking ball and his off-speed pitches, not this year because we only had 9 starts, but last year I think we had like 20-some starts for Paul Blackburn. By run value, his breaking ball and his off-speed stuff, by run value, he's top 20% of the league. He's like 82nd, 83rd percentile on Baseball Savant. The fastball is not what plays, but the breaking ball, the off-speed stuff, is among the top 20% of the league. That's what you got, and you gave up nothing. You gave up. I think it was the number 25 prospect in the organization in Cade Morris. It was a solid move.
No, I agree. I think that's what makes the deadline for the Mets good is they didn't really give up anything and they were able to upgrade their team. So yeah, I'll give them a win there. My grade for them was a C+. I was thinking about a B. I think you could make the argument for a B. I just went C+. I would have liked to have, if you were going to add something for the rotation, I would have liked a little bit more, especially now that Senga's out. So, but that's, I mean, maybe I'm nitpicking just because.
Well, they would have had to give up too much, right? Like
I know.
Now you think about what Eric Fetty went for, and that would have the Mets if a similar return package, I think would have been on the Mets side of things. I think you could have done a deal for Eric Fetty and been able to get that without hurting the future of the team. And Fetty's another guy that's under control for next year. But at the end of the day, there really weren't too many other opportunities or instances like that where you were like, oh man, why didn't they do that trade? Because, there were only a couple of Eric Fetty type instances.
Yeah. No, in the end, I think the Mets, I think they did fine. Could they have maybe added someone like Tyler Anderson, maybe take his contract, add some depth. You know what I mean? I just would have liked to have seen a bit more just because of Senga. If Senga was back, I'd be fine. I'd probably give the Mets a B, but I'm just thinking in my head because Senga's out, you know. So I was thinking like, oh man, would really like something else there. But in the end, like you said, it's the situation they're in, and that's what makes it good. But this is a good one. We had some good conversation here. I think it's safe to say, though, I think we're both ready for a day off. I think
maybe. Yes.
I'm exhausted. Last night, I was talking with Doug at the beginning of the show. Last night, when we got done, I felt fine. Last year, I was wrecked. Like I was done. As soon as I hit end stream, I just fell on my bed. This year, I was like, okay, I feel fine. I grabbed something to eat, and then after that, I knocked out. I just passed out.
Yeah.
And then today I've been feeling it today. I somehow did a video today. I think you did too. I don't know how the heck I even did that, but I don't know. But how are you feeling right now? You ready for a day off?
I definitely am. I know that I'm going to miss the activity in a day or two, but I am looking forward to taking a day. We'll see what happens with some of the storylines in baseball. I might find myself back at it and doing something tomorrow night, but I should recharge the battery and take a day. But it's so much fun, and it all happens in such a tight window too.
I know.
Over just a couple of days. So when it starts to hit and when it starts to pick up, it is in such a. It was really just like 3 or 4 days. I think you and I both toyed around with the idea of trying to start trade deadline live streams like 3 weeks ago, and they didn't do anything. People were not interested. They weren't ready for it.
No.
They weren't ready for it until the deals started to happen and the news really started to pick up. And that was like 4 days ago. So it's like, oh, here we go. And we're going into overdrive.
It all happened just in the span of a week. I mean, you're right. It was a couple weeks ago. We were making mock trades, and they were doing okay. I made a couple of videos about 3-4 weeks ago. It did pretty well, but when it came to the consistency, it was sort of very up and down. And but this past week, oof. I mean, we had the trade deadline Eve stream on my channel a couple of nights ago. There was a lot of people for that. It was just, man, it was nonstop all day. It went actually by really quick. I didn't go to the bathroom one time. I think that might be a personal record. I did not go to the bathroom one time.
I did take two. I took 2 breaks. One to hit the head and grab a sandwich. And then I took another break because I needed to order pizza for the kids. And my wallet was upstairs, so I had to go upstairs.
That's a good way to step away.
I had to go upstairs to get the wallet, but I was prepared. I had a "Be Right Back" graphic that I put on screen, and but it was. I mean, they were short breaks, but it's a lot of fun. I can't.
Because at one point I had like 2,000 people. I'm like, where the heck do all these people come from? And all of a sudden people were like, oh, we're here from Jim's. I'm like, oh, okay. So then
Jim went to the bathroom, so we bailed on him. No, I went away, and I think when I walked away, I had about 1,500 people in there. And when I came back, this was the first break. This was the longer break. I think it was cut down in half. Yeah. But people came back, and that was what was great is that because the algorithm, the way the YouTube algorithm works, yesterday, MLB and trade deadline, those keywords, it dominates the algorithm. So it's a great opportunity for new people to find us. It's a lot of fun, meeting new people in the live chat and seeing them subscribe. That's a ton of fun. And hopefully, the algorithm doesn't nuke us and these people don't go away in a week because they open up too many cat videos or I don't know. WWE's got SummerSlam coming up. If you open up any SummerSlam videos,
that's a good way to take a break this week.
We're gone if you watch 2 SummerSlam recap videos or if you watch 2 cat videos, the algorithm's going to throw it off. But it's really fun. It's a lot of fun that day, and I wish we could have more days like that in Major League Baseball. That's why I am a fan of more deadline-related things when it comes to baseball. I know most fans are not, but I am. That's more for content creation. That's more for creating those big moments. I wish in the offseason we had, like,
Oh my God.
Dude,
Yeah.
I would love
Off-season deadline.
Off-season deadlines, and we don't even need to. It doesn't need to be like one. Like again, let's spread it out. Let's make it 3 deadlines. If
Yeah.
anybody that you signed by deadline 1, maybe you get like a luxury tax break, or you get a draft pick thing, or you get improved odds at the draft. I don't know, but obviously not all deals are going to get done. So then let's add a second deadline where there's other bonuses or incentives to sign players.
Yeah.
I would be all for it, not from a fan perspective, not from a player perspective or a team perspective, but just from a YouTube content creation, creating those moments, because deadlines just knock it out of the park.
Oh, I mean, and that ties into my theory. I've said this a lot, and there will be people that disagree with me, but I'm sorry. I think people, for the most part, baseball fans, at least I think for more of the casual fans, they enjoy the deadline, the off season more than the actual games themselves. I really do. I think there's like a thing in people's brains when they visualize a player in a different jersey, and they're thinking about the roster construction and what you have to send back. I think people are really into that, and I don't know if people want to admit it or not. I'll admit it for a lot of people out there. I think that actually is true. I mean, I love watching the games. But it's very evident when you look at views and whatnot on our channel when we're doing like World Series post games. We got like a 200-300, maybe 400 people depending on the game, but we have like almost 2,000 people yesterday, and it doesn't even compare. And it's like we're talking World Series games, and we got barely anyone in the chat. So it is what it is. I will say though. Yesterday, I do want to thank the people that are here. That was our highest viewed stream ever in channel history, which is funny because last year we ended up getting more people in the chat. We were close to, I think we were at like 2,800 last year. This year we peaked at 2,000, but we got more views overall. So that tells me that people last year, I think you had the Shohei Ohtani aspect. I think you had some bigger names. I think that was a factor into this one. I feel like the deadline we talked about it lacked a little juice, but I think people were popping in just to see if anything was happening. What did you think based off of your numbers?
For trade deadline purposes, this was almost last year. I don't know if it was my setup or something I did with keywords or a crappy thumbnail. Last year was a disappointment on my level. Maybe you grabbed everybody. You had 2,800 people. I don't think I even sniffed 2,000 last year. And this year, similar to you, that's where we were. This year we were. Last year was weird. But I think at the end of the day, this stream, we set a new mark.
Us too.
Set a new mark. I'm pretty sure this was obviously more than last year. I think this was even more than the year before that. This was the third trade deadline that I've gone live for the full stretch. The first time I tried to do these pop-up uploads as deals were going down, and then I went live for the last hour. So this was the third time though that I just was like, sit down, let's go. It's going to be an all-day thing. And it was definitely as it should be, because the way this stuff works, if you I don't know if you noticed, but there's certain times of the year that start getting recommended again because you were watching it last year at this time. So that kind of creeps into the algorithm too. So it should continue to grow, but it was nice to see it grow significantly over last year. And it was exciting. And I felt like, it's true. It's funny. You were talking about how this year lacked juice, not as many players, not as many rumors, not as many intrigue. I think maybe because there were so many deals, I never found myself with a lack of anything to talk about this year.
It went by so quick.
A couple times last year, I did. A couple times last year, I was like, I think I need to take a break because I'm tired of talking about the same thing over and over again. This year, with so many teams and so many players moving, never felt like it slowed down.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It was already like 3 o'clock. I started at 10 and it was already 3. And I'm like, whoa, it's already 3.
Yeah.
I didn't really stop talking the entire time. There were a couple of moments where I was like looking for something on Twitter, but I felt like my voice never stopped. I don't know how I still even have my voice right now, but I don't know. Either way, it was a great time. We gained a bunch of new people to follow along for the ride. We've been doing this for a few years now. It's been a crazy ride the last few years. It's been fun, and it's only going to get better. It's only going to get better. But everyone, thank you for stopping by tonight. I know a lot of people are worn out. They're probably just like, all right, I'm done. But if you can, everyone, all we ask, just go download the Barreled Up podcast, whether that's on Spotify, Google, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Go download it. Make sure you got the notifications all turned on, so that way when we post an episode, you got it. It really does help us out. It really helps out with the numbers, so that's all we ask. And
tell the people at the office, tell the people in your class, tell the people in your family about the Barreled Up podcast, that there's a pretty cool baseball podcast that they need to check out. Do that. Help us grow. Tell your friends.
Just a couple of YouTubers just yapping away. So, but yeah, no, we're having fun over here. But everyone, thank you for stopping by tonight. We really do appreciate it. Go have yourself a good night. For me personally, I know I'm probably going to be out of here for a couple of days. The thought of power rankings right now, I don't even want to think about it. I'm done. But I don't know. We'll probably be back for that on Sunday. But Jim, what do you got going on over?
Dude, we should have a tell-all one of these days. I don't know. Maybe we got to juice up like the number of members, and we could do like a members only stream, and it could just be like a tell-all, all the stuff from behind the scenes. I have no idea what I have going on. I got a break going on is what I got. There's definitely the live streams are gonna keep going. Here's the funny thing. I am actually heading out of town for 2 weeks starting on Saturday. I'm still going to try to keep up with the channel and put some things out there because I'll be able to. And I've got an editor that I'm working with, so I'm thinking I might be able to send him some stuff so that he can at least from a video standpoint, I can send him the audio. He can put together the video, and I can still do some stuff while I'm on an island for 2 weeks. But that's what I got going on. I got a sweet ass vacation coming up.
That sounds nice to me. But yeah, that's going to be the fun thing with August is like you kind of have this month here to maybe get creative a little bit, maybe come up with some different concepts, different video ideas, you know. August is kind of it's an interesting
weird
month where it's an awkward
weird.
month,
It's tough because the playoffs aren't there. Like you're not eliminating teams yet. You're not anointing teams. I mean, well, I guess we're anointing teams all year long, but we're not eliminating teams yet. So August is a weird month.
Yeah. Well, either way, we'll have fun with whatever we do.
Yes, we will.
But everyone, thanks for stopping by tonight. We appreciate it. Have yourself a great night, and we'll talk to you next time.